It's my pleasure now to introduce to you the Director of the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, Elizabeth Klein. Liz has served under 3 American presidents in senior roles in the Department of the Interior. She's been a very important advocate for offshore wind. We're delighted to have Liz with us today.
I'm so glad to be here with all of you today. My name is Liz Klein. I am Director of the Bureau of Ocean Energy Management, or BOEM, and on behalf of the Department of the Interior and the entire BOEM team, I'd like to thank Adam Stern and Offshore Wind California for inviting me here today. I'd like to thank all of the staff at Offshore Wind California for putting this amazing summit together. I know it's a lot of work. It is truly wonderful to be back here in beautiful California. I love my trips out here. I was here almost 1 year ago this week, I think, or close to it anyway, to speak at last year's summit. So I'm really pleased to be back here today to share BOEM's perspective on the continued growth of the offshore wind industry here in the US. It is really, it's a beautiful day outside. You all should try and get out there. Not too hot yet. And of course, California is a beautiful place. I remember actually the first time I ever experienced the Pacific Coast Highway and just driving up that beautiful coastline and seeing the amazing resources there, the animals, the, seals, sea lions. And of course, now we know that a portion of the Pacific Highway, Coast Highway, has washed away again because of continued road slides. And there are communities that are suffering along that highway from the economic hardship associated with that. Portions of the career at the Department of the Interior have included working on wildfire issues. And we know that 8 of the 10 largest wildfires in California state history have happened since 2017. These are increasingly devastating events. They can wipe whole towns off the map. And we're seeing increasingly intense wildfires all across the country. There's actually another alert this week in the Midwest because the wildfires in Canada are starting again. I said it is a beautiful day outside, but we know that extreme heat and drought conditions in certain areas of the world and potentially here in the US are rendering communities unlivable, certainly unstable, but these are real and challenging issues. I could go on and on, but that's would be sort of depressing. The point is that climate change is happening. It's having real and serious impacts here in the United States, and President Biden believes that that warrants a real and serious response. Now is not the time to accept the status quo on these issues. Now is not the time to sort of throw up our hands and declare that all of it is too hard. Now is the time to roll up our sleeves and accept that we must find cleaner, more sustainable sources of energy. But fortunately, we are blessed here in the United States with tons of just that. President Biden believes that now is the time to tap into, for instance, the glorious winds blowing off of our coastlines, both here on the West Coast and on the East Coast and all around the country. Now is the time to tap into American ingenuity, expertise, and our hardworking spirit. Now is the time to address climate change by supporting a thriving domestic offshore wind industry. And the hardworking folks at BOEM, I am proud to say, are doing just that. We are really proud to be playing a leading role in our nation's transition to a clean energy future. In just the past 3 years, we have approved 8 projects, which is up from 0, which represents more than 10 gigawatts of offshore wind, enough energy to power nearly 4 million homes. And we have more projects in the environmental queue, so to speak, right now. We have 2 commercial projects in federal waters that are sending energy to the grid as we speak. Also, as we speak, we have a new construction beginning, with pile driving happening, I think, even today off the shore, Virginia. We have our first offshore wind lease in the Gulf of Mexico. We have floating offshore wind coming to the Pacific. We held our first California lease sale, of course, in 2022, and we are on track to hold an additional lease sale in the Pacific offshore Oregon this year. We're exploring additional leasing opportunities in the Central Atlantic, Gulf of Maine, and the US territories, including Guam and Puerto Rico. I had the opportunity to travel to Puerto Rico and meet with the governor there to talk about the tremendous challenges that that island is facing in terms of its energy generation and how interested they are in tapping into clean energy sources. So throughout all that we are doing, BOEM is working to support a robust and sustainable offshore wind industry in this country. We're doing that by finding ways to bring more clarity, efficiency, and predictability where possible without sacrificing our core values. Last month, the Secretary announced our 5-year offshore wind leasing schedule, which includes up to 12 offshore wind lease sales over the course of the next 5 years. We have up to 4 lease sales on track this year, but we know we need to look beyond this year. We need to look beyond 2024 and come back to places like California. We at BOEM want to send a message that the U.S. is a place where offshore wind can thrive and where we will continue to support the tremendous economic opportunity presented to us. So at BOEM, we're refining our processes. We're working with our sister agency, the Bureau of Safety and Environmental Enforcement, and you are fortunate enough that you're going to hear from the director of BSEE, Kevin Sly, after these remarks, I think. Working with BSEE, we recently modernized our offshore renewable energy regulations, which will streamline and clarify our processes and increase efficiency for offshore renewable energy permitting. That new rule, I think, is actually publishing in the Federal Register today, and the BOEM team is looking forward to implementing that. It will become effective in 60 days. And so we're looking forward, again, to working with all of you on that implementation. We're learning from our earlier projects, those 8 decisions that I mentioned. We're incorporating the lessons learned from those into our processes. And I want to say very clearly that permitting reform is happening right now. With our federal partners, BOEM is conducting thorough reviews that are increasingly more efficient and predictable. Of course, not every project is easy. I don't think any of these projects are easy, actually, but we are tackling the hard questions, and people are starting to say things. People actually say things like this to me. It happened recently. BOEM's permitting process is the least of our worries. It's really remarkable. So thank you for those folks who say that to me. But quite simply, we are laying the foundation for an offshore wind energy program that is built to endure. Of course, state partnerships are critically important to this effort. States play a crucial role in energy generation and distribution, and coastal states like California are really leading the way, setting their own offshore wind goals and creating economic opportunities to support this growing industry. At BOEM, we are really proud of the strong partnership that we've built with the state of California. We share the enthusiasm about the state's goal to reach 5 gigawatts by 2030 and 25 gigawatts by 2045, and we appreciate all of the years of careful planning that you all have put into offshore wind development. We're excited to continue our close partnership with the state of California as you pursue the state's vision to really be a leader in offshore wind, and particularly in floating offshore wind. I know the rest of the team at BOEM actually also really deeply appreciate that California is a leader in pursuing this clean energy opportunity in a thoughtful and responsible way. Because it's not just about getting turbines spinning, it's about delivering clean energy responsibly and with as few impacts as possible. So at BOEM, and I know within California, we're working first to identify the places that pose the greatest prospects for energy development with the least environmental or user conflict. We're moving forward with commitment to being responsible stewards of a healthy and sustainable ocean. We're working to incorporate environmental justice throughout our activities, including our environmental reviews. We're dedicated to building trust, engaging respectfully, and maintaining open and transparent relationships with our tribal partners. We're engaging with fishing groups, meeting with them in their communities to hear their concerns. We're listening to industry and stakeholders up and down the supply chain to learn about and understand all of the challenges they face. And we're conducting multiple technical and environmental studies. We have a tremendous environmental studies program at BOEM that is helping to answer the continued questions about offshore wind's potential effects on important resources. And importantly, we're not just answering those questions, but we're also identifying how to avoid, minimize, and mitigate any potential impacts that could occur. At every step, we want tribal communities, ocean users, and stakeholders to have the information they need and a seat at the table. Feedback is really critical to everything that we do. Just by way of one example, when we were identifying offshore wind energy areas for the potential lease sale in Oregon, we excluded important commercial fishing grounds based on public feedback that we got. We avoided key areas of a long-running scientific survey, which is important for salmon populations when designating Oregon's final wind energy areas. Now, I know that oftentimes these processes aren't perfect, and sometimes communities feel like they don't have equitable influence in what the federal government does. And there are many who may not always agree with the path that we choose, but we strive to be as transparent as possible about those choices, and I promise you that we hear all the input and feedback we receive, and we will continue to make ourselves available to you as we work to achieve our offshore wind goals. I'll let you in a little secret, although I have gotten some kudos recently about permitting. The job here at BOEM can be hard. Sometimes it's a hard job, and I know a lot of you are probably facing some days at your jobs where you think, boy, this is hard. This transition to clean energy, this building of an entirely new industry, this is tough stuff and it's hard to do. It's also, I got on a plane from the East Coast to come over here, leaving my family at home to work out all the logistics of life in the month of May, which are significant. Happy Mother's Day, by the way, to those in the audience. Sometimes when we do that, we do these hard jobs at some personal sacrifice. And I'm often reminding myself of why that would be. Why do we do this? And my answer is, we cannot afford not to. The climate crisis is real. We're already feeling its effects. This administration's clean energy agenda can help us combat this challenge, and we remain aggressively optimistic that we can achieve these offshore energy goals. The continued leadership of states like California are crucial to developing this emerging industry. And this administration, the Interior Department, and BOEM support all of your efforts and look forward to working with all of you to make the Pacific's and the nation's clean energy goals a reality, because again, we simply cannot afford not to. So I want to thank you all so much, and here's to a successful 2024 Pacific Offshore Wind Summit.